Hello, and welcome to Wigs with me, Gnomes. Today we're going to talk about two different methods for spiking wigs. One of those is big, soft, fluffy spikes, and another is cord spikes, like this guy next to me. Let's get started. To create soft, fluffy spikes, we first need to create volume. For this I like to use a heat-resistant wig, hair straighteners, and a teasing brush. Separate out a small section of hair and heat it with the straighteners. Whilst the hair is hot, backcomb it. The more heavily you backcomb, the more volume you can produce. It can take a bit of practice to find the right vigour for the backcombing, but if you don't like the look that you've achieved, remember you can re-straighten your wig and try again. Essentially, what we are doing is using the heat of the straightener to soften the plastic of the wig fibres. When we then backcomb the hair, we produce kinks in the fibres, which as the wig cools back down, become set into place. So then when we eventually brush out our backcombing, we're going to have a lot of volume. Keep heating and backcombing your wig until you have covered the desired area, and then leave it to cool. With the first round of backcombing complete, you're probably having a mild freakout at the mess you created from your expensive base wig. Take a few deep breaths. At this point, nothing is permanent. You really can just pick up your straighteners and return the wig to its original state. But if you can screw your courage a little longer, you're going to enjoy the fruits of your labour. Now it's time to comb out the backcombing. Once again, we're going to work in sections. Take your teasing brush and ease the knots out of the wig hair, working from tip to root. Work gently and patiently, as you don't want to rip the fibres. Our wig's looking better already, and the volume difference from our starting point is huge. At this point, I use my straighteners and a teasing brush again. Here, I'm lightly and swiftly running my straighteners over some of the surface hair where I already know I will want it to have a smoother appearance. As you can see, the kinks are very easy to remove. It's important to keep a light touch here though, as you don't want to compromise the future integrity of your spikes by making them too smooth. The backcombed kinked fibres create a scaffold through the centre of your spikes that allow the spikes to keep big volume, retain their shape, and sometimes even defy gravity, so you don't want to get rid of all of it. This is just to tidy up. Now it's time to start sculpting our spikes. I've started here by sectioning off a sideburn. I like to keep sideburns out of the way early on to make sure they have sufficient thickness and are in the right place. I wouldn't want to find out later that I'd made a mistake. I usually err on the heavy side for sideburns, as I like to use them as a tool to contour my face when I'm wearing the wig, by playing around with their position. Note when I cut the hair here that I do not simply cut straight across the wig hair. In fact, my scissors never fully close. I use the scissors like a razor, working up and down the hair to create a natural and gentle finish to the tip. This creates a grading where you get different lengths of hair, and it means that when I want to, I can very easily pinch off that tip. The primary tools I use are a teasing brush, straighteners, hairspray, hair cutting scissors, and a hairdryer. You'll need to choose a brand of hairspray that works with synthetic fibres, as most are designed to function with real hair. I, and many other wig stylists, use Got2b. As for scissors, I really recommend investing in some hairdressing scissors for wig styling, as you will achieve a more refined result. You don't have to spend a lot of money. These scissors cost me about £15 British, and they last me through styling approximately 50 wigs before they start to blunt. You may want to investigate size and shape of scissors that best suit your hand. For my personal use, I like an even finger grips and about a 5-inch blade. With my hairdryer, I have 3 different heat strengths and 2 pressure settings. I almost always use the high heat and low pressure settings. Another favourite tool of mine is a steamer. Steamers are great for deploying high heat at low pressure. The damp air adds weight to the fibres, thus reducing flyaways. As the pressure is so gentle, it is very easy to use a steamer as a heat tool to reshape and reposition a section of hair. Work through one spike at a time. There's no need to aim for perfect on your first pass, just a general idea of how you'd like the spikes to sit aesthetically. Here you can see me use an alternate method for thinning hair tips. I cut into the hair, keeping my scissors parallel to the fibres, to once again create length variation so that the tip of the hair will pinch off into a nice sharp spike. Now that every spike has had a once over and I'm happy with the shape, 80% of the work is done. But the next 20% will really make our work sing. It's time to tidy up. This involves making sure the surface hair of each spike looks nice and smooth and all the flyaways are tamed. By working in this manner, an initial pass followed by a refining pass, the hairspray I used on the first spikes has had a chance to dry, making them much easier to tease apart and rework than if the fibres were still wet and gummy. Damp hairspray is heavier and more temperamental than dry hairspray, so it's worth having the patience to wait for it to dry. As you can see in this phase, I tease away the surface of my spikes and relay the fibres using a combination of heat, hairbrush and hairspray to achieve a smooth finish. The steamer is especially useful here. The gentle damp heat reactivates the hairspray, but only slightly, so you can gently smooth out the surface hairs. I find this action spreads the hairspray more evenly over the spike, so that when the spike dries once more, it is much sturdier. As an added bonus, the heat is also softening the plastic fibres, and when they cool, they are more inclined to stay in their new position. I'm finally happy with my spikes. It's time to pinch off the tips. The tips of a spike are its most vulnerable area, so I apply additional product to increase durability. On this occasion I'm using Got2b spiking gel, but sometimes I also use clear drying fabric glue. The key is that these products dry hard but also remain flexible. Both products can be reactivated by water should the wig ever need to be reworked. I take a pea-sized amount of product and gently work it into the tip of each spike. Not all spikes lend themselves to being soft. Perhaps you want to achieve a more geometric look. Perhaps the spikes you're trying to achieve are too strangely shaped for a soft spike to remain durable. Whatever the reason, cores can come in handy. A wig core is a durable item, be it foam, card, felt, etc., over which hair is laid. In this tutorial I am using stiffened felt to make my core. I prefer felt to foam, as I find the fuzzy texture better adheres to the hair. If you've ever made cosplay armour before, this section will likely feel very familiar. I'm using a pre-made pattern for my spike. We are constructing our spike out of the stiffened felt and gluing the pieces together with hot glue to make a three-dimensional shape. You don't need to worry about being beautifully neat with your seams, as they're going to be covered with hair anyway. With our core now constructed, it's time to attach the hair. For this I'm using a teasing brush, loose hair fibre, hairdressing scissors, hair thinning scissors, clear drying fabric glue, coconut oil, and a hot glue gun. Let's attach that hair. I start by dispensing a generous dollop of glue within easy reach. As my fingers get gummy whilst I am using this technique, it isn't always convenient to keep squeezing more and more glue out the bottle, so I like to make sure I've got a healthy dollop to hand. I then take a small section of hair and spread it thinly between my fingers. I take some of the fabric glue and work it into the ends of the hair to create a flat, glued together section of hair. I then use hot glue to attach this to the base of my spike. Using the same method, I make my way around the whole base of the spike. If I were working with a big spike here, I'd likely complete one face of the spike at a time, but as it's only a small spike, I can take it on in one. You do need to work fairly quickly at this point, as the hot glue will cool more rapidly than usual due to the contact with the cold fabric glue. I trim away the glued ends of hair so they abut with the stiffened felt ends once more. This creates a much tidier finish and will allow for a smoother attachment to the base wig later on. Do you remember how we thinned the tips of spikes in the soft spike tutorial earlier on, by cutting into the hair? Well, we're going to do the same thing here. Unlike with the soft spikes, I'm choosing to use thinning scissors here to speed up the process. I don't like to use thinning scissors for soft spikes, as I find they can create very obvious crenellations in the cut. The liberal use of glue with the cord method, however, hides this. The aim is to create a gradated tip, so that when we pinch off the spike, we will achieve a sharp point. I'm now using a bit of coconut oil to add weight to the hair. You could just use water, but I find the longer lasting oil useful. By damping the hair with the oil, I can make sure it is laid neatly over my core before I secure the tip. Coconut oil is a great tool for those who struggle with static or flyaways. Now it's time to secure the tip with fabric glue. Be gentle here. Pull too taut and you risk the core coming into view between the fibres. The aim is for the core to be completely concealed from view. If the fabric glue isn't fully sealing the tip, you can apply heat to speed up the drying time, or you can be lazy like me and use a dab of hot glue on the tip of the core. You can end your spike construction here, or for additional durability, you can run a thin layer of fabric glue over the entirety of the spike. The texture of the fibres will still be hair-like, but flyaway maintenance will be reduced. The hair, however, will lose some of its realistic fluffiness. The only limit to the number of cores you can use are weight and space on the wig. This wig here is set to have 32 cores. Attaching the spikes to the base wig is achieved through a combination of hot glue and then smoothing hair from the base wig over the spike to conceal the join point. If you're struggling to hide a join or make a mistake and the section gets messy, just cover it with a patch of hair. If you're dexterous with your attachments, no one will ever know, so there's no need to stress about such a mistake. Happy wigging!